So this unit that we're working on right now, or this problem that we're working on right now, is very similar to the problem that we did yesterday. I do really want to encourage you, if you are having a little bit of trouble with this, I realized I kind of jumped in way too quickly with it. So I actually uploaded a new video that's in the math slides under Mondays, slides that will hopefully be helpful. Um, it's right here. It's this, it's here is another video that breaks it down further. I really like this video. I think I did a pretty good job with it, and I think it makes it a little bit more understandable. But then once we get that done, this is what we're going to end up working on. So I wanted to do another problem with this. All right. So let's get right into this. So we have a rectangle D. That is 3.5 units long and 2 1/4 units wide. So because I'm looking for the area, I need to multiply the length and the width. Long, I'm going to multiply 3.5 times 2 1/4, right? And what we're going to do is we're actually going to look for the area by taking it and separating it out into its pieces. You'll notice I'm not changing any numbers. I'm just taking them and I'm moving them to slightly different places in the rectangle. And the reason that I'm doing that is so that I can then separate them. I don't remember that 2 turning orange, but okay, I'll fix that. What I'm doing is I'm separating them so that I can multiply them and get the answer. Red and blue together make purple, right? 3 times 2, I'm now going to multiply, right? 3 times 2, 6. 2 times 1/2 is 1/2 plus 1/2, or 2/2, or 1 whole. 3 times 1/4 is 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4, or 3/4. And last but not least, 1/2 times 1/4 is 1/8. So what I want to do is I actually just for now is I want to take my whole numbers and I want to just leave them. We're just going to put these in this green box until we're going to use them again. Consider this like the pause box. Because what I need to do now is I need to add all of these up together. But I already know how to add these. These are easy. So I'm going to just put them on pause. I'm going to put them on hold for a minute. And I'm going to go into adding these. 3/4 plus 1/8. Now, if you remember how to add fractions, you're good. Don't worry about this part, right? Skip ahead a couple minutes in the video. But if you do need some help with adding fractions, remember that when we add fractions, we need the denominators to be the same. And right now they're not. I have a 4 and an 8. So in order to get the denominators the same, what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out, well, what numbers, what can I do to change this, right? How can I, without actually making it different, without turning it from like just a 4 to an 8, I'm just going to do it. How can I make it so that they have the same denominators? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply, if I need to, both of them, but at least one of them, by some form of 1 that is going to make it, that's going to change up the denominator, change up the how many pieces I'm cutting my whole into. And so let's make a list. What could I cut 4 up into? What could I cut 8 up into? Because those are my 2 denominators. So let's say I just cut 4. It's already at 4, right? Imagine I have like a cake here, and I cut 1, 2, 3. So that's how it already started. Now let's say I cut it in half. Ooh, not a good half. But if I cut it in half, now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces, right? That would be if I cut it 2 times or 1 time. Let's say I cut it twice. Now it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you see what I'm doing is I'm just multiplying the numbers, figuring out, well, what could I cut it into? What could I change it into, right? Here, if it was ones, it would be 8. If I cut it in half, it would be 16, right? And I'm noticing that both can be cut into the number 8, right? If I just have 1/8 and I don't do anything for it, it'll stay 1/8. But if I take 3/4 and I multiply it by 1, 2, or in other words, I had 3/4. Let me draw 3/4 really quickly. One, 2, 3, right? And I cut it. This is the first thing. But if I cut it again, now all of a sudden, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 8 shaded. So what I did is I multiplied it by 2 over 2. I still multiplied it by 1 whole. But all of a sudden, it became 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. So now my 3/4, without actually changing the number, that was really important. I didn't change anything about it. I just changed the number of cuts it had, became 6/8. And the reason I did that is because if you'll notice, now I have like denominators. Now my denominators are the same, and when my denominators are the same, I can add them. So all I did was I turned 3/4 into 6/8. Now I can add these, right? When I'm adding, my denominator stays the same, and I add my numerator. So now I did my 3/4. Remember, my 1/8 is right here. I used that. My 3/4 became 6/8. I used that. And so the bottom two, this is 7/8. And then remember I said I was going to take this, put it in the pause. So I'm going to unpause it. Now I want to add 6 plus 1. 6 plus 1 is 7. And now I need to add these together. 7 wholes and 7/8. My area is going to be 7 and 7/8 because it's area, it's units squared. I like to think it's because it has, you know, the 2 dimensions, length and width. That's why it's a 2. I know this is confusing. I know it's hard. Please come to office hours with questions about it. All right. I love you. I'll see you soon, and have a wonderful day, scholars.